Hello. Have you ever had a moment of melancholy in the red-yellow wonderland of an autumn forest? Suddenly, your attention is diverted from the beauty surrounding you into a sense deeper than eyesight. It feels primal, but complex. The silence is deafening. Liminal spaces are a phenomena taking the internet by storm. Ever since the 2019 4chan thread describing the wet, moldy hellscape of the backrooms, it seems that we just can't get enough of these in-between lands. Countless incredible video essays have been made defining these areas of in-between. This video will not follow that trend. Rather, I ask you to spend some of your time with me, analyzing the emotions underneath the initial unsettling horror. I ask you to wonder why dreams make us so empty. Growing up, I had my nose full of the musty odor of old library books whenever possible. I loved getting lost in worlds of unimaginable scale and freedom. A great story had the ability to transport my consciousness somewhere else, anywhere but here. I craved it. During this time, I was discovering the joy of video games. The worlds I had imagined had finally been given a visual form, a soundtrack, and a killer dopamine hit to top it off. If my parents hadn't limited my gaming time, I absolutely would have spent every waking minute glued to that screen. Whenever I was allowed to play, I was happy. I craved it. Elementary school transitioned into middle school. Puberty hit like a wet noodle, while fitting in somehow took importance over getting my Swampert to level 100. My free time filled up with sports and friends, mixed with the embarrassment of trying to talk to other 12-year-olds, also realizing they felt all weird when talking to the opposite sex. I look back on middle school fondly. Some of my closest friends I met during those 3 years. I developed my sense of self, interests which I still hold today, and so much information about the world. Yet, I recall another sense underneath all of the exciting transitions taking place. I was grieving. Grieving for what, though? There I was, a middle schooler, never experiencing the death of a loved one. Grieving. At the time, I recall distracting myself from the feeling. I had told myself that I was simply growing up, and everyone else seemed to be loving their lives. I'm 22 years old, and that feeling has only grown. But this feeling isn't depression. In fact, I don't even have the language to begin to describe the pain, happiness, love, and hatred, all combined in this figment of my conscious being. I have some intensely powerful memories. I remember the time my buddy and I walked the Golden Gate Bridge on a field trip, asking passerbys for high fives. I know, we were comedians. I remember falling in love with a best friend, and I especially remember graduating the 8th grade. But I also remember a dream of a Colosseum. As I drifted off into sleep with thoughts of the strangely discolored Pichu I had just killed in Pokemon Pearl, I suddenly found myself awake again. I glanced down at my hands, turning them palm side up to see the dry, flaky skin begging to be freed from its prison of flesh. My eyes darted towards the gray, gravelly ground, interlacing with my bare, freezing feet. I was wearing loose pajamas. As I adjusted to my surroundings, I first glanced at the sky, half expecting to see snow in the freezing weather. Instead, I was met by a flat sheet of gray clouds, uniform in every conceivable way. They stretched infinitely into the horizon, endlessly shrouding the lands in a twilight glow. As my eyes trailed towards the horizon, I was shocked to find where I stood was a platform, floating above an abyss of unimaginable depths. Circular in its geometry, the platform held nothing in meaningful information besides myself and the skyscraper height Colosseum in its center. The vision grew hazy as I found myself in the center of that Colosseum. The howl of the wind gouging its way through the decrepit structure was the only audible sound I heard as I began to scream. A small white rabbit sat in the center of the Colosseum. It was human-like, with its hind legs resting in front of its vertical body, and its front paws draped to its sides. The fur on those paws silently rustled in the wind. The camera focused on its form. Its eyes were full of life, as its lips were parsed in a mischievous smile. There's no way it could be alive. I quickly realized that my mouth had disappeared. The camera zoomed in yet again. It felt like an eternity that I watched the rabbit in pure silence. Even the wind lost its voice. Suddenly, after an inconceivable amount of time, I heard something. It started as a slow trickle, then a gargled gushing. This liquid was not water. It was not blood. It was thick. It wasn't human. I watched in silent horror as the rabbit began crying. Rabbits aren't supposed to cry black tears. A gelatinous black fluid trickled down the rabbit's eyes, staining the glistening white fur with streaks of decay. The rabbit's stomach sliced open as more of the oil began to gargle, bubble, and spurt out onto the Coliseum floor. The camera began to shake. My view shot around the rabbit's body as oil poured out of every orifice. It was infinite. It wasn't human. What is this? Who put me here? Who am I? Wake up, wake up, wake up! I shot awake. Sweating and out of breath, I glanced around my dark room. Starry nightlight in the corner buzzed with the energy of safety. It was warm in my room, cold outside. I was safe. I took some deep breaths and let my head fall back onto my pillow. Trickle, trickle, trickle. My eyes shot open crazily. It was raining. The trickle began to flow, down the roof tiles onto the ground below. It was infinite. Every corner of the sky erupted into an orchestrated downpour. It was raining. I was asleep in my room. It wasn't human. Sleep, sleep, sleep. That night, I woke from an old dream. I woke from a dead world. I don't ever want to go back. But why can't I forget? Why can't we all forget? I wanted to forget. I wanted to forget. I tried to kill my dreams, drown them out with reality, and dose them with some Xanax. Here I am, 22 years old, remembering that Coliseum. No matter how hard I try, I still dream. And you should too. No matter how much we deny it, we crave nightmares. We crave the in-between, we crave the unsettling. Here we are, creating a trend around exploring decrepit ruins of the internet. The backrooms are a picture that we've developed into this entire world of nothing. But we're so attracted to it. It pulls so many views and has so many different stories connected. Why? I don't have the answers. I don't think anyone does. Maybe it's human nature, maybe it's an internet phenomenon, maybe it's just we like being scared. It's a good feeling. But I have a suspicion. Maybe life is a dream. If life's a dream that we eventually wake up from, I don't want to forget.